In today's video, we're going to answer the question that literally nobody asked. What's better, the most expensive 24 fret PRS or the cheapest 24 fret PRS? Let's find out. I'm Jennison and I'm thinking about guitar, and today we're going to be comparing two guitars from PRS, the most expensive production 24 fret guitar they currently make and the least expensive 24 fret production guitar they currently make. This is the 2025 40th anniversary custom 24 limited edition Satin, and this guitar kicking around down here is an SE CE24. They're both green, they're both 24 frets, they're both finished in satin, but they come in at radically different price points. Let's just say that this guitar is worth, or rather priced at, more than 10 times what this guitar is priced at. We'll judge the worth as we go forwards. Now, again, you can let us know in the comments your opinions, and I'd be very keen to know what your opinions are going into this test, and also how you feel once we've concluded this test, because I'll draw some conclusions at the very end. I'm interested to know if your opinion changes at all over the course of this video. Now, the way we're going to test these guitars is with three criteria. The first of which is going to be a spec comparison, where we'll compare the specifications of these two guitars. Then we'll do a tone comparison, where we put them through the ringer with a variety of different styles, different tones, different amp setups to explore how well they function as instruments. And finally, we'll talk about the player experience and all those little intangibles like the beauty of the guitar, how it feels, how it plays. It's quite difficult to communicate that over video, but we're going to try our best for you guys. Anyway, let's begin with a spec comparison, and we're going to start by taking a closer look at the SE CE24. So let's begin with a whistle-stop tour of this very high quality but very affordable instrument. You will note that this is one of PRS's East Asian made SE guitars made by Core in Indonesia. We have the SE logo up here and the CE denotation on the truss rod cover, which denotes a bolt-on guitar. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to flip it over and show you the back of the headstock, where we can see this sticker denoting that it's made in East Asia. Lots of great guitars coming out of the Core factory, so let's not hold that against this instrument. We have a little bit of flame maple going on in the neck, which is really quite cool. I don't know if that's deliberate or if that's by accident, but I think it's only on the north end of this scarf joint. There's no real flaming going on the bulk of the neck, so we can consider that to be a little bit of a happy accident. It's a wide, thin neck finished in satin with a rosewood fretboard. Once again, we'll take a look at that. We get bird inlays, we get PRS's medium jumbo fret profile. If we turn our attention to the neck join, we can see it's a 4-bolt neck join with a very easy access heel, although this is a little bulkier than we see on the set neck models. We have a satin finish on the body. It's mahogany throughout, and it's a 3-piece mahogany body from what I can tell. Slightly mismatched in terms of grain, but again, this guitar is super, super affordable, so no complaints there. The covers, this is just a little thing. The covers on the back are not recessed, and they are on the Core model. That's not really a big deal. It's just kind of a small I guess, premium appointment. We can take a look at the front. We can see we once again have this satin open pore finish with a slightly shallower carve. This is the SE carve as opposed to the full violin carve that we see in the Core model. And the edges are just a little bit sharper. It's not quite as nice feeling against your body, but that's not going to affect the playability too much. Although if you're like me, I do like the violin carve because of the angle that it places my forearm relative to the guitar's strings. I struggle with flat top guitars for that reason. I like a little bit of a break in my wrist. Now the pickups are PRS's 8515S models, which are the East Asian made takes on the 8515s, controlled by a master volume, a master tone with a coil split, and a 3-way toggle. Again, no rooted dishes for the volume and tone controls, but that's more of an aesthetic thing than anything else. And we have an SE tremolo. Now, again, this works really well, but it's probably not made of the same premium materials as you'd expect to find on the Core model, and doesn't stay in tune quite as well, but that's probably more a factor of the tuning pegs, which aren't locking, as opposed to the new Phase 3 locking tuners that are on the full fat Core model. And last but not least, we have a standard style jack socket rather than the premium style jack socket that we have on the Core model. I think once again, that is more of an aesthetic thing, but it also feels a little bit more rugged, a little more reliable. These are all kind of little things, truthfully, but in terms of spec, this guitar is still very impressive. However, we're going to take a look at the Core model next, and I think you'll notice some glaring differences. So now we've got the Core model, which is the limited edition 40th anniversary custom 24 satin. There are only 500 of these guitars in the world, so I'm being very, very careful with it. Beginning at the headstock, we have this attractive ebony overlay with a pre-factory eagle. It's the same ebony that we have on the fretboard. We have the Phase 3 locking tuners. These tuners are absolutely exceptional in terms of smoothness, accuracy, and stability. I'm going to flip it over and show you the back. We've got some very handsome open gearing on said tuners, satin finish on the back of the neck, and it's a set neck join as opposed to the bolt-on that we saw on our SE guitar. Once again, let's take a look at the front, or the fretboard rather, where we have ebony with the old school birds with the outline. Now these look like they're the same inlay, but when you look up close, man, these look absolutely gorgeous, right? The other ones look fabulous, but these look absolutely gorgeous. Similar fret wire, although while the fit and finish is great on both, it feels very slightly taller on this guitar. I could be wrong, that could be the neck profile, but it feels taller, it feels exceptionally tactile. If we turn our attention to the body, we have a gorgeous flame maple cap, full thickness, which is painted in this beautiful cobalt burst. It's my favorite of the finishes that are available on this particular kind of guitar, and it's a full violin curve, so the working parts of the guitar sit further from the edge of the guitar. The edge is slightly more rounded too. We've got painted binding. If we look at the back, we've got recessed covers. Not a huge deal, but it does make the guitar feel very nice against your body. It's not a huge thing. It's not going to affect the playability drastically, but it's nice. Let's just put it that way. And once again, we have the standard PRS heel, which seems to be slightly smaller. I could be wrong. I could be mistaken here, but it seems to be slightly smaller on these current models compared to some of the older guitars that I have in this rack over here. Even still, it's super comfortable, really easy to get up into the upper reaches of the fretboard, which is important when you've got 24 frets. Now, the electronics here, we have the DMO, which stands for Dynamic, Musical, and Open pickups, which are brand new for 2025. And to my mind, having played these for a while, these are the best pickups PRS have ever made, like no question. And I was kind of skeptical about the hype because I really like the pickups that are in my McCartney 594. These take the cake, right? And they come with PRS's lampshade knobs, which are really pretty. They're really nice in these little recessed dishes, a 5-way blade super switch offering a combination of humbucking and single coil tones. We have a Gen 3 tremolo finished in this beautiful smoked chrome finish. It stays in tune. It works beautifully well. Again, that's a combination of the tuners, the trem, and the nut, but the whole system does work significantly better than the the SE guitar, as we'll find out. And finally, as we mentioned, the jack socket. The jack socket is PRS's traditional metal style jack socket, as opposed to the generic jack socket that we see on the SE guitar. Now, that's a whistle-stop tour of the specifications, but spec alone, in my opinion, does not justify the price difference between these instruments. Yes, there should be some price difference, but a 10x price difference, that's really something. Now, the acid test here for me will be the tones. So let's fire up a bunch of different amp tones and we'll do some direct back-to-back comparisons between these two guitars. Now, one of the difficulties we'll face here is the fact that these two guitars do not have exactly the same switching options. The SE guitar has 6 options in total, with 3 positions on the toggle switch and a master coil split, whereas the Core guitar has humbuckers on the outside and then a combination of various in-between tones, where we have a combination of the full bridge humbucker and the neck pickup split. We have both humbuckers in the middle, and then we have both pickups split. So we're going to restrict ourselves to just the tones that are common to the two guitars. But even still, I feel like personally this is a little bit of a win for the SE guitar in terms of the actual options that are available. I would personally prefer a 3-way toggle and a split, but that's just the way that I like to work on my own instruments. I feel like the actual tones themselves, as you'll probably hear, well, I'm not going to preload this. You can be the judge. Let's take a listen to how these guitars sound side by side. So it should come as no surprise that the Core model absolutely wins the day when it comes to tones. How much? Well, that's really in the ear of the beholder, and it also speaks to how important different parts of the signal chain are as we start to ramp the gain levels up and as we start to adjust our playing style. Now, what you'll probably notice is that for the high gain metal example, there wasn't a huge amount of difference between these two guitars. Yes, the Core model is a little more articulate, but it's not a night and day difference. However, as we start to play with a little more sensitivity in our touch and we don't just bash on the thing, the Core guitar really comes to life. Now, that is not to say that the SE guitar sounds anything short of spectacular. It does sound killer, but I've really got to give it to the Core on this one. However, again, is there a 10x difference? It's tough to say. You can be the judge. Now, on to the experiential aspects of these two guitars. And this is kind of touchy-feely stuff, right? It's not really very scientific, and I'll be the first to say that, but that's a big part of what you're getting when you pay for an expensive premium guitar like this one. And the first thing to note is that just picking these guitars up, this guitar feels very special. Now, I had this question, and this is kind of something that prompted this video, is I took this guitar with me, the SE guitar, to a rehearsal. My drummer Matt asked me what the difference was between this guitar, which is very, very affordable, and this guitar lurking over here in the rack, which is my Core CE24. It's one of the older guitars from 2006, from before the separation between the Core and CE lines. And Matt was asking the question, hey, what's the difference between this guitar and this guitar? And rather than trying to explain it to him, I just handed him the two guitars and went, look, this is the affordable one, this is the expensive one. And he got it, right? There's something about these Core PRS guitars, when you pick them up, they just have a special feel about them. They feel incredibly high quality, and that can bring things out in you as a player. I don't think it's just a confidence thing. I think it's an inspiration thing too. Now, I'm perfectly willing to accept that you may not agree with this and your experience may be entirely different, and that is completely fine. Everyone has different opinions about this, and that's why these different guitars exist. But for me, as somebody who's played an awful lot of guitars, let me tell you, at an awful lot of price points, there is something very special about this guitar that just kind of isn't there in the SE guitar. Now, the SE guitar, by contrast, is a fantastic working man's instrument, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It will do the job impeccably well, but does it have the same kind of magic? You're free to disagree here, and you're free to not believe in this magic that I'm talking about. That's totally okay, right? But what I will encourage you to do is maybe go and pick these guitars up if you can access them, or something similar, and just see if you can kind of pick up on what I'm saying here. You might get it, you might not, but again, this is just an experiential thing. Now, in terms of the actual playability of the instruments, there's really not much in it. As a working instrument, once again, the SE guitar is absolutely on the money. And what I will say is that I'm going away on tour next week, and I'm going to be taking this guitar. the SE CE24. Why am I taking this guitar and not the expensive one? Well, first of all, the expensive one isn't mine, right? But even still, if it was, I still don't think I'd take it away on tour because this guitar is super reliable. As you heard, it does the trick. It's tough as far as playability, as far as tones go, but it's also really affordable. So if this guitar gets damaged, it gets lost, somebody steals it, heaven forbid, I'm not going to be heartbroken. There are only 500 of these guitars in the world. If something happens to it, that's like 1 out of 500 guitars gone. That's a responsibility, right? This is a limited edition instrument. You may disagree, but for me, I feel a weight of responsibility to look after this guitar, whereas this guitar, I can take it out, I can use it as a working instrument. And that is a big thing for a player like myself. And also, I'm playing metal gigs. I'm playing metal gigs in a variety of settings, from small clubs to large festivals. I'm going direct to front of house. I feel like this does somewhat minimize the minutiae of the tonal differences, right? When you're playing with loads of gain in a noisy metal band, this guitar will do the trick just fine. And once again, I won't be worried about it. Now, this is going to be my backup guitar. I will be playing my CE24 as my main instrument, but I think this guitar will do just fine. And I think if I was to take just one guitar on the road and it was this one, I wouldn't be unhappy. However, if you said to me, Nick, money no object, we're just going to gift you one of these guitars, which one do you want? Of course I'm choosing this one, this expensive limited edition custom 24. I will always reach for this guitar in a situation where there are no other variables. If it's just, hey, which one do you want to play? I'm playing this one, right? No questions asked. There is not a situation, apart from something like taking it away on tour, where I would select this guitar over this guitar. Personally. However, if somebody said to me, you may be on the hook for the price of this guitar, if you lose it or it gets damaged, you're paying for it, that's different. There I'm going to take this instrument all day long. Folks, again, I don't really think we've broken any new ground here. I think this is exactly the kind of comparison result that you would expect. Of course, this guitar is better, but how much better? Well, you can be the judge, and we want you to be the judge. So let us know in the comments, do you feel like this guitar, based on what you've seen in this video, is worth the price tag compared to this guitar, the SE CE24? Both fine instruments, and I think they both have different players in mind, let's be honest, and different situations in mind. And once again, the proof's in the pudding. I'm going away on tour. I'm taking that guitar. Folks, my name is Nick Jennison for Thinking About Guitar. I'll see you again very soon.